Just got a notification. Are we live? Cool. I think we're live. Let me just double check. Yep, okay. Alright. Alrighty. Oh, did Nick post something? Dude, what is up with the Jet 2 holiday, bro? What the fuck is up with that?
Save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family. We've got millions of free child-based holidays available with
20 ass time. Okay, dude. Alright, man. Better than yours. You really thought total Aryan victory? Are we serious right now?
Oh!
But now, with Jet 2 holidays.
Officer, he got a knife. He got a knife.
Nothing beats the Jet 2 holidays. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family. We've got millions.
What is wrong with Twitter?
But now, with Jet 2 holidays.
Yep. Yeah, just another. It's like every day there's a new clip like this. Yo, what's up, Smelly? How's it going, dog? Talking shit to MAGA boomers on here all day. It's very satisfying. A real trooper. A real patriot. Somebody has to put the MAGA boomers in their place. Yep. Just another day. There was something I wanted to react to. Did I lose it? What the fuck happened to it? What the hell is that? Okay, dude. Immediately going for the guy, obviously in self-defense, is crazy. That's when you retacted at the police officer. Why didn't the officer just stop it to begin with if he was that close? Well, yeah, that's the obvious question, right? Many such cases. Accusing any American Jew who is pro-Israel of being an being an Israel firster is a pure form of anti-Semitism. That's very funny, Ben Shapiro. I have new ultimate ability. I pull out the news and watch them spurg out. Ah, he's a communist. You can't vote for him. Ah. You want the Democrats to win? I should watch this. Bro, are we serious right now? Dude. Oh my gosh. Like, at the same time, just two separate bots on Kick. Can Kick do something about that? They probably don't want to do anything about botting on Twitch because then all of their streamers' view counts will go down to like a quarter of what it was. There's so many fucking view bots, it's insane. Yeah, there's a clip I wanted to... I guess it's gone. I guess it's fucking gone forever. What are we doing? What are we doing? E-girls fighting again? What is this?
Hi, I'm Kaylee Weichbrot. I'm a mom of 2 in Fairfax County. This is my oldest.
Okay.
And
care about
my
this?
husband and I have a difficult decision to make this fall as he is approaching preschool age, and we are faced with the decision of whether or not we are going to put our child in public schools.
School choice. Yes, yes. Are we really shilling for the Hebrew Hammer? Oh, bro. Do not shill for Stephen Miller. Anyway. I watched The Brutalist last night. You know, that movie with Adrian Brody. Won a bunch of awards in when it come out, 2024, last year. Man. Oh, thanks, Kumquat. Thanks, Kumquat. I appreciate that, Kumquat. Appreciate you joining in on the fun. Yeah, you having fun there? Bot Kumquat. Anyway. Dude, if you ever wanted to, like, see, like, the lens that Jews look through when they look at themselves and they look at Americans, when they look at Christians and white people, just watch that movie. It was like, and it's a well-made movie, like, it's well shot, it's well acted and all that. But it is, like, so... It is just like straight up, like, Jewish masturbatory propaganda. It's fucking nauseating. It's like this, the synopsis is, you have this, it's post-World War II, and you have this Jewish architect fleeing Europe. He's from Hungary. And he's separated from his wife and his niece, who are still in Europe. And so he makes his way to America to start a new life. And he comes in on Ellis Island, and essentially the whole gist of the film is he gets this, like, second opportunity to build his he gets commissioned to build this big community center turned into a chapel. He meets this billionaire who was impressed by his work. And it's like, it's just, like, nauseating, because even when you look at it from, if you try to look at it objectively, here's this guy who comes from a desolate, war-torn Europe. He gets a second chance, and he's, like, making good money. He meets a literal billionaire that commissions his work, and he just has this bitter resentment to, like, the billionaire and everyone around him. Going on? I like to talk a lot. How's it going? Yeah, I guess I can play a trailer just to get, like, the idea. So that's his cousin that takes him in initially.
There's him. He's alive. What?
So he finds out that his wife is alive.
These are yours, yes?
Yes.
All of them?
Yes.
So this is the billionaire. Or, you know, he's a millionaire, but would be a billionaire in today's economy. And he commissions Adrian Brody's character,
foreign architect, shoveling coal here in Philadelphia,
to make this, like, grand structure.
It is not so simple.
One that would also be a chapel, one that would also be a church. And there's a lot of these subtle moments in the movie that kind of like hint at they're very subversive. Kind of hint at the main character and the writers, all Jewish. They're like their disdain for America. They always feel like the outsider. And like at one point when they're planning on how they're going to finance this enormous building, you know, it's going to be a gymnasium, it's going to have a library, it's going to have like a some other part to it, I can't remember, a theater. And at one point so the idea is it would be like a public installation, a public building that everyone could enjoy. And that's what he's saying. And so he pitches it to the mayor, the billionaire pitches it to the mayor, and the mayor's like, well, they'll help fund it if they add a chapel, if they add a Protestant chapel to it. And Adrian Brody's character is like, I thought it was for everyone. And of course, you know, they always make the like American billionaire look like brash and less sophisticated. So he doesn't really pick up what Adrian's really saying. He says it is for everyone. Clearly, that's not what Adrian is saying, because Adrian is Jewish, or, you know, his character and, well, himself in real life are Jewish. And that's like a major theme, is like he comes to America and he just feels like an outsider. And there's no attempt to assimilate. Well, that's a nose. Yeah. How'd you know? Yeah. Just for making camps they were so fond of in Europe. Yeah. And so I guess I'll just keep playing the trailer, because it's a 3-hour movie. There's a lot
It was a war
to unpack.
And yet, many of the sites of my projects had survived. My building.
So this was the library he initially built for the billionaire. It was supposed to be a surprise. The billionaire's son commissioned him to build it. And this is what impressed everybody, that made the billionaire want to hire him for a bigger project.
My buildings were devised to endure such erosion of shoreline.
And so there are a lot of moments in the film where like and the billionaire even says, like, he even says this, he's like, I always find our conversations very intellectually stimulating. And they're subtly insinuating that the Jewish character is the intellectual superior. That underneath the language and the demeanor of the billionaire, because he talks, you know, he has a pretty solid vocabulary, but that there is this sort of, that it's implied that it's mostly bravado, and that ultimately the real visionary is you know, the real intellect lies with the Jews. And that was also hinted when like his wife, who eventually comes to America, like subtly corrects the billionaire on something, because she's well educated, and the billionaire's like, well, touche. There are a lot of these little like subtle implications. With pool movie theater, yeah, I got what you were saying, yeah. Do you find our conversations intellectually stimulating? With you, kumquat, never. He gets lost in the sauce when he's yapping. Give him a second. Yeah, I don't want to finish my thought. Otherwise, I lose my train of thought. And so there's a lot of moments where it's like, as they're trying to build this structure, which I guess I can show. Let's just let the trailer play a little bit.
Shoreline.
I brought you all out here to join me in looking forward toward the future.
What do you think?
It's unusual, even for you.
Your English is impressive. Perhaps you can help your husband sound less like he shined shoes for a wage.
And it's like these little moments where the billionaire is like making jokes at his expense, like really get under the main character's nerves, really gets under his skin. And it's like, well, hang on a second. Here's this billionaire that's giving you like the opportunity of a lifetime. He's giving you a second chance at life for you and your family. And yet you still have this like bitter resentment at something like a joke about your accent. And there's a lot of moments like this where there is just this seething resentment. It's like, but wait a second. This guy is giving you the opportunity of a lifetime, yet it's the jokes that get under your skin. And so there's a real case to be made that like this guy is just, well, he is kind of just an ungrateful piece of shit.
I'm sorry. Will you please pass that back?
Especially because, you know, after meeting the billionaire's personal lawyer, this guy is a very powerful Jewish lawyer. And it also shows how, you know, how they help each other out. Because this guy I think his firm worked in the plot, his firm worked with the vice president, was able to help get his wife and his niece into America. So if not for meeting this billionaire, he would literally still be alone, separated from the rest of his family.
They do not want us here.
Who do you mean?
The people here, they do not want us here.
And that's like the crux of it. They don't, because in this monologue, he goes on to say like, this place is rotten, the food is rotten, and the people are rotten. That was like the big emotional explosion in the final act of the film. That's how they feel about America. That's how they feel about white Christians. They make multiple jabs at Christians and white people throughout the film. Gotta add this segment into a weekly bit, Red Pill movie reviews. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just watch a movie every week and just review it. But this is like kind of off the cuff. Maybe I should have like written my thoughts together before, because I watched it last night. And they make multiple jabs at Christians throughout it. Like when he initially gets brought in by his cousin, this guy who owns a furniture store, also Jewish, who changes his name from like something European, like Hungarian, was like mixture, some Jewish Hungarian name, to Miller. Opens up a store called Miller and Sons. He doesn't have sons, but he said that, well, the locals like a family-owned business. You know, typical. And he marries a Catholic woman and converts to Catholicism himself. And it's clear from the start that the Catholic woman just absolutely hates Adrian Brody, his character. And even going so far as to lie, saying that he made a pass at her to get him kicked out from his cousin's home after they worked on this project together that kind of fell through for the library that I showed earlier. And so, and they always have that iconography. They always had the cross in these shots just to highlight what, like, this is how they think the Catholics have been treating the Jews. There's nothing but antipathy there. And so they make the Catholics look out to be really terrible. Just like unhospitable, terrible. And even at one point, when he was working in when he was staying in, see if there's a clip here, when he was staying in like this like Catholic poverty center, you know, he was asked by one of the nuns if he could participate in the Sunday Mass. Of course, he didn't like that because he's not Catholic, and that's like the big takeaway from that. That there is this friction between the Jews and the Catholics. They make that very apparent. And again, there is an unwillingness to assimilate in any kind of way. You know, the character goes to synagogue. And there is these sort of undertones that, hey, the Jews have to stick together because these Christians are not, they don't want us here, as he said in the monologue.
do not want us here.
Who do you mean?
The people here, they do not want us here.
Back when we still had Christian Anglo billionaires? Yeah. And that was a Catholic woman that was just like, had it out for him at the start.
When dogs get sick, they often bite the hand of those who fed them. Until someone mercifully puts them down.
Promise you won't drive him back.
I promise.
Did they show his niece at all in this trailer? Because like I said earlier, he was also with his niece. I guess they don't show her. But, why do they hate Catholics so much? Because they think Catholicism is anti-Semitic inherently. Because of the history. The history of the ghettos and the perceived persecution that they feel like they've faced as a result of Catholicism. Because Catholics believe that Jews killed Jesus and that Jews reject Jesus' divinity. So, but I shit you not, like at one point, like this was like a pitch for Zionism. The whole movie is pitching Zionism. It starts in 47, which, around the formation of Israel, that there's a sequence where there's a radio broadcaster talking about Israel and the Jewish state, and the destiny of the Jews and their sovereignty. Sort of subtly hinting that, without Zionism, this is the fate of the Jews, to be foreigners and to be disavowed or unwanted in these various countries. So much so that the niece eventually makes a decision to move to Israel, and that causes a bit of a rift, because she says, well, I need to go to Israel, it's our calling. And they're like, are we not Jews? Are we also not Jews? Sort of highlighting an internal conflict in the Jewish diaspora. And eventually, the main character and his wife move to Israel themselves, after they have that emotional sort of explosion. And so they commission him to build this church. And he's not too keen on that because he's not Christian. Of course, he's bitter and resentful about that. Is there a picture of them building it? And of course, he's the visionary genius, and like all of the Gentiles, all of the white people, they're like kind of the cause of all of the problems of his vision. And it makes him look like the visionary genius, and everyone else is like kind of like a bumbling oaf, that are more pragmatic than visionary, because they're worried about costs and cutting costs, and so much so that Adrian Brody's character puts up his own money to make up for some of the cost cutting techniques that they wanted to implement, but that they didn't. Orthodox don't support Israel either. Yeah, it's really kind of only evangelicals that do. I notice Adam King is always talking about Catholics. No one else. He even said Prots are okay. Yeah, because they hate Catholics the most, and that's apparent. They make that pretty clear in the film. They depict Catholics as the Catholic woman as the worst, one of the worst characters in the film. Who likes the Kingdom of Heaven movie? The extended cut is pretty good, but it's definitely biased. But it's a solid blockbuster. So they're building this church, and one of the features of this church, it's revealed at the very end, after everything goes down and he's being celebrated, his work is being celebrated as as like a visionary architect. And side note, the reason why they call him the brutalist is because of brutalist architecture that became very prominent in post World War II. And a lot of that architecture was inspired by the horrors of World War II. This sort of postmodern depression and sort of unoptimistic view of the world. And that was reflected in much of the architecture at the time. This brutalist, very pragmatic, simplistic architecture. When you contrast that versus the architecture that was coming out, like if you look at like the World's Fair prior to the breakout of World War One. Let's do 1883. And you look at some of the architecture, it's very different. It's ornate, it's intricate. The turn of the century was a very optimistic time. And that optimism was absolutely shattered by World War I and World War II. And the art reflected that. You saw brutalist architecture, you saw surrealist art, sort of the deconstruction of like reality because of this sort of unconscionable destruction that occurred, that broke many people's spirits. And so it's sort of revealed at the end with his final building that that was his inspiration, that his time in the concentration camp, and I forgot which one it was that he was in, his wife was in Dachau, that was the inspiration for the brutal architecture. But he combined all four of these, it was supposed to be four buildings, into one, and symbolically, and they tell you this at the end of the film, that's sort of to show that him and his wife are always together in this sort of timeless way, that they will transcend time together. And moreover, that is a symbol of like Jewish perseverance, that they will transcend time, and that through time they will still stand strong. That was the message there. But what I think a lot of people might miss, because there's a part of the building that he designed into it, and part of that is there are these like slits in the ceiling, these windows, that at noon they form a cross at the altar. I don't know if they show that, but that was like a big feature, a big selling point that he used to pitch to all of these people why his work, even though he's a Jew, will be sort of an impressive feat that will appeal to Christians. So every time at noon, the cross forms at the altar. Well, what does that indicate? If you look at the building, its brutalist structure, that it's supposed to stand the test of time, and the windows that he states are sort of to give glimpses of hope into the outside world as you sort of look up and into the world and at your oppressors. The fact that cross only occurs at one brief period of time during the day, whereas the building itself is supposed to symbolize Jewish perseverance that is timeless. What does that imply? They're saying, it's like a taunt. We will persevere. We will overcome this Christian oppression that is but a blip in time. That is the message. That's what they're saying. That's what they're telling you. This is their victory screech against what they perceive as the evil Christianity that's oppressed them for 2,000 years. I think that subtlety is probably lost on a lot of people, but they really don't make it that subtle. Because they love to point out the cross. They love to highlight the cross whenever a like Christian character is doing something immoral. When the Christian, when his Catholic cousin and wife are kicking him out of their home after she lied about him making a pass. Or when, all of these Christians, these Protestant Christians are like screwing him over and treating him like trash. And there is just such an this like this resentment that I think is just so clear. And it's just, I think it's funny because like at one point, like before the movie came on, I'm like, oh, you know, it had all of like the advisory warnings and everything, drug use, sexual content, nudity, and rape. I'm like, rape, okay. Is that gonna happen in like the concentration camp or something? And like, meanwhile, like the character is like a total degenerate. Like the first thing he does when he gets to America is go to a brothel. And like straight up, like, you know, he's getting like jerked off by this fucking, this prostitute. And then later he's like going to like a porn movie theater, a porno theater. And he's like doing opiates and everything. So like this is like the kind of stuff he's engaging in, and they really don't apologize for that whatsoever. So he's like, you know, cheating on his wife. He's and she even says like, I know, this was a bizarre sequence, but she said like, I know and I forgive you. Like she was like, she said she was having visions when she was in Europe still. And so it's just like, it's degenerate. The film is pretty degenerate. They show degenerate stuff, and the main character, the protagonist, is a degenerate. And so much so that like the billionaire blocks him for that. Like in this scene, when they go to Italy to source some marble for the altar, they get kind of fucked up, right? They're partying with the Italians. They both get pretty drunk. And then Adrian Brody goes into the hallway to shoot up, and literally the the billionaire straight up rapes Adrian Brody. Straight up. And he's like, you know, you just can't help yourself. You're just a leech, an urchin, a parasite on society. And then he's like, he flips and he says, oh, you think you're so much smarter, so much better because you're educated. And this is like, this is Jews telling, sort of depicting what they think Europeans think of them. That simultaneously they're treated as parasites, but that all of these Gentiles, even somebody as successful as this tycoon billionaire, is just jealous and in reality intellectually inferior to these Jews. So much so that that he has to rape the main character
Until someone mercifully puts
to
them
like
down.
prove to like win that power dynamic. And it really felt like pretty out of place, because it's almost like they had this problem where they had to like make the billionaire do something unconscionable so that the audience definitively knows that this guy's bad. You can't like this guy because he's a rapist. Because otherwise it's like he's given Adrian all of this opportunity. He's vouching for him. When, you know, a lot of people are raising their concerns like, hey, shouldn't we get like a Protestant to build the church and not a Jew? And he's like, no, I vouch for him. And so it's like, it's almost like they were faced with this conundrum. They're like, we can't have them empathize with the antagonist. We can't have that. It's too compelling. We'll make him rape him. We'll make him rape the main character. And that's what they feel like is happening to Jews, that they're just getting raped because all of these Gentiles just hate them so much and feel intellectually inferior to them. And that's why they just have to rape the Jews. And it's like, I like rolled my eyes. I'm like, are we serious right now? Are we serious right now? Of course. Of course. And that culminates in like, eventually the wife confronts the billionaire at a dinner party. And he's like, you know, I know what you did. You raped my husband. And that leads to this like conundrum. She gets kicked out. The project remains unfinished for a few more, like 15 years after that. And the fate of the billionaire is unknown. He kind of disappears. Maybe it's sort of kind of implied that maybe he kills himself. But at the climax of the sequence where everybody's looking for the billionaire, they show the cross illuminated on the altar. It's like, oh, that's very subtle. sort of telling the audience this is what Christianity is and this is what Christianity is about. So it's very uncharitable, and it's just constant symbolism and subtext to lead the audience to despise the Christian Gentiles and sympathize with these poor Jews and their strife. Let me catch up here. Chosen people, they were chosen to receive the Messiah, all left on those that rejected the synagogue of, synagogue of Satan. They are destined to walk the earth in self-exile from Christ, just as Cain did after he killed Abel. Yeah, they are in exile. That's part of, and that was like, and this was a pitch for Zionism, like I said, because, you know, it's implied that this problem is a root problem of these Gentile nations and their Christian roots, their Christian religion. Yeah, there was a gay rape. There was literally a gay rape in the movie. It's like, are we serious? In Europe, nearly all of the Calvinists were integrated with the Jays and tied to them, overthrowing France, bolstering William the Orange of Netherlands as a puppet. Calvinist Jays. Yes. Yeah. Gay rape. Instant never watch. Total Jew slap. Yeah, list of movies I'm not watching. Yeah, so yeah, dude, it's like, but it is like, if you want to like get a glimpse into the lens that Jews view America and they view the Gentiles and they view Christianity, this is a good film to watch if you want to see that. You just need to be critical and this is part, you know, it's a well-made movie. It's well-paced. It's well shot. They handle tension really well. The dialogue is, and the acting is very good. So it's a compelling film. And if you're not like keen to what's really going on, the subversion here, like you can see how people will buy into this narrative and buy into this idea that Jews really need their own state because they're just not welcome anywhere else. So it was like, yeah. Am I forgetting anything else? I kind of blitzed through that. It's a little jumbled. But, yeah, like, like literally, they said this place is rotten, the food's rotten, the people are rotten.
I promise.
And it's like, dude, this is a country that gave him and his family a second chance. And it's like all they can hyperfixate on is like, you know, how he was treated a little bit differently or how there were jokes at his expense. It's like, oh, that's great. That's really awesome. Yeah. There's just no way you're watching. I review Jew movies. Yeah, maybe I could do that. Just pick a movie every year. This one was like kind of an easy one though. Like, it's like every year they just have like some like Jewish masturbatory film that comes out that just lauds Jewish creativity and Jewish perseverance and condemns the evils of the Gentiles and their closed-minded Christianity. It's, of course, you know, it's all about the Holocaust and Zionism. And movies like these are very, they've been very pivotal in maintaining this illusion, maintaining the case that, you know, for Israel, for the Jewish state. That's why they need to maintain the Holocaust narrative. Does the movie mention the $250 billion it will cost the U.S.? What, Israel? No, it doesn't make that. Inglourious Bastards. Yeah, maybe I'll do Inglourious Bastards next. But again, like I said, these are, when it comes to quality, these are good films. This was a good film. By like technical standards, it was a good film. obviously was subversive. It's the same way like Inglourious Basterds was a good film. And it's like people get the wrong idea when you have a nuanced opinion when you give praise to something that's, you know, obvious, like goy slop and subversive. Yeah, it wouldn't be good propaganda if it wasn't good, if it wasn't compelling, if it was obvious, or if it was like off-putting. Then yeah, I think a lot of people wouldn't really give a shit. They never would have gotten anywhere. And so I think when you look at movies like this, like patriots, Christians need to look at how they craft these movies and take notes. Because this is like this is the quality standard that you're up against. The symbolism. They handled tension really well. It was a 3-hour movie, but I never felt like it dragged at any point. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, you know, you don't get free points for like making slop that's just like based slop. You know, you have to put out good movies, like well-crafted movies. It shows tribal nepotism. The lawyer referenced the degenerate knows to be the architect. He literally stole a job from a native straight Christian. Well, it wasn't even necessarily the lawyer. It was the billionaire. It was a billionaire that spotted his talent. I think the lawyer helped facilitate that. Because like I said, he initially made a library for the billionaire. It was supposed to be a surprise, so the billionaire didn't know about it. His son commissioned him as a surprise birthday gift. But after the billionaire found out about who he is and was impressed by the craftsmanship, that's what pulled him in. So it's sort of like more of like an exploitative spin. Like that's kind of the subtext, that it's like exploitative. Django Unchained, total exaggeration and misrepresentation and portrayals. Yeah, Django's another one. You know, just another like white people all racist and bad and whatnot. They have an infinite money supply. The movies better be good. Yeah, and they have access to, you know, the best cinematographers and editors and all that. So you would think that their movies would be good, but that's why, like, you know, sort of to piggyback off of Nick's message about being exceptional and being elite human capital, it's so we can make stuff like this. It's so we can make the best movies, you know, create the most compelling propaganda, the best art, the best engineering firms, the best creations, inventions, etc., that we own, that we control.
I brought you all out here to join me in looking forward toward the future.
What do you think?
It's unusual, even for you.
Yeah, I was
Your English is impressive. Perhaps you can help your husband sound less like he shined shoes for a wage. I'm sorry. Will you please pass that back?
yeah, it's just yeah. So that was that movie, The Brutalist. Red Dead 2 was Goy Slop. I was gonna play that. That's unfortunate to hear. Cause I like westerns. I like westerns a lot. Yeah, dude. It's Is there anything else I forgot to mention? I think I pretty much covered most of it. Yeah. So that's that. The first is great, just not the second. Yeah, I played the first one. The first one was great. But it's sad to hear the second is slop. Yeah, I did play the first. The thing is, though, at least when it comes to, like, you know, like GTA, at least there's sort of an excuse. Like when they show like degeneracy, it's because, well, America's degenerate, you know? But when you inject that stuff into a time period game, what's the excuse? Battlefront 3? I don't think they're making a Battlefront 3, little bro. I think Battlefront 3 is a foregone conclusion. Ever since, remember the loot crate debacle? I don't think Disney wants to work with Disney wants to work with DICE anymore in EA. GTA 4 and Vice City were your favorites. GTA 4 was good. Hey cousin, let's go bowling.
That was worth, it was worth $25 for you to say, how often do you read? What is wrong with you?
That's pretty kick. A man can hope. Yeah, Battlefront 2 is good. I played it again recently. It's in a good spot. So y'all ain't even old enough to know about GTA 3 on PS2. Yeah, the wood table's cooked, bro. Think of the warping. Where are the coasters? What the fuck? Yeah. Anyway, that was my segment. That's what I did last night. I watched that movie for 3 hours. Talking about the OG Battlefront. Yeah, the OG Battlefront was pretty great. W. I don't think there's really much going on outside of that. Anyway. What's this trailer? The Terminalist. You guys watch Terminalist? I watched it. It was pretty good. I like Chris Pratt. You know, nice little fun. It's slop, but you know, it's fun slop. Sometimes slop is tasty, okay? But it wasn't that bad.
You had to shoot him to end the fight.
He murdered a CIA asset.
An example needs to be made.
Thank you for your service. I'm offering you a chance to finish what you started.
Loss of engagement.
Wait, is that what's his name? What's his name? Captain America? Is that who that is? Oh no, never mind. Looked like him for a second. Go off, Unk, start the...
Flexible.
We have a chance to take down a known terrorist.
If we do this,
Fuck, dude,
I need
getting
to know
old sucks.
that you can find the brakes.
There are no brakes.
Well, Mama told me
Men like us.
when I was young,
Protectors, defenders, sentinels.
come sit beside me.
You're either in the fight or you're thinking about it.
Dude,
What we're doing here is gonna echo through
so
time.
is Chris Pratt not part of this anymore?
Ben, what do you care about?
What I say.
Loyalty.
I have intel. We're being played.
Ben's as sound as any of us. Are you sure about that? You look close
Andrew
enough,
Wilson,
you'll see
TikTok
those strings vibrating.
Invasion tonight at 10 p.m.
Mission's been denied.
You gonna tell my men what you just told me?
What's he doing at 10 p.m.?
My father used to tell me that some men will go to war to fight the enemy, but others will seek war to fight themselves.
Get 50 on land!
This one hits close to home. I'm trying to do what's right.
Wherever you are, you do not have to carry this weight alone.
Thank you. You always believed in me, brother. the rules. You have to remember, we're not the players here. We're just pieces on the board.
Even a pawn can take down a king.
Yeah, you know, it looks like kind of like typical like right-wing gun tuber slap kind of stuff, but yeah, sometimes that's good enough. The big head Last of Us girl wants to be the next Spider-Man. I saw that. I saw that. Did you see I think Kaguya posted about it, right? That's what I yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know about this one, boss. I don't know about this one, Chief. I don't know. I don't know about this one, dog. I feel like at this point, surely she's just rage baiting. These outlets, I'm sure, are just rage baiting. She probably said that jokingly offhand, knowing that people would pick up on it. That's pretty keck, though. He's trolling liberals on TikTok. Andrew Wilson's all right. I think he's pretty good. I don't really follow his work though. I always think of this one clip. I think I saved it here. I always think of this one clip.
A little bit. I think we need a narrative. Now let me get at liberalism a little bit. I think we need a narrative to fully understand this. Progress towards what?
So this was to give you guys. Here's Keith Woods replying to Academic Agent on what some of the other greatest political streams of all time are. I'm gonna play this without comment, and if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you were never meant to.
Now let me get at liberalism a little bit. I think we need a narrative to fully understand this. Progress towards what?
Progress.
If you go back to the word itself, it is liber, a notion of Dionysian release and expression. Liberalism is very well codified in Euripides the Bacchae. Dionysus comes into town, into Thebes, demands to be recognized as the son of God, and
what is this sophistry gibberish? What's the point? What's the point?
I'll get to the point of this.
All right.
Just let me. Okay.
I don't want to hear about Dionysus.
He brings about a massive orgy that will ultimately lead to the beheading and death of the Pentheus who's actually leading Thebes. So liberalism, it isn't like rational or about policy. It's fundamentally about release. Even democracy itself is a kind of orgy, you could say, in the sense that it is about all people participating, taking part, the majority winning. That's what liberalism is.
Well, I'm going to jump right in the middle and say, you know, when you're going into Dionysus and stuff, I'm like, come on, what's the point? But it actually is very interesting that liber in ancient Rome, it is the root word of where liberal and these words come from.
Exactly.
That is interesting.
These people are so fucking retarded, man. Bro, so yeah, I think this is like the best example in action of like political discourse and IQ distributions. If you get it, you get it. If you understand what I'm saying, good on you. If you don't, you're not gonna get it. Destiny was getting caught up in some stuff. Who? Do we care about Destiny? Bro, what the fuck? It has to be like a skit or something. Are e-girls going at it again? E-girls are going at it again, it looks like. Emily Saves America, who's a notorious whore. And Zionist shill. A cross right next to your cleavage is so hilarious. Why do you feel the need to attack other women online? Because I don't bend over backwards for Israel. I'm wearing a normal dress. Stop over-sexualizing everything. Are you porn-brained? It's gross. Even Christian women will defend being naked at all costs. You never see the trad e-girls without a pound of makeup, short skirts and dresses, and using God for money. Yet they insult and gaslight you if you notice. Rare coal burner W? Kinda true, though. You know, Ella's been pro AF for a minute. For years. But, yeah, this is still true. Pro kinda cooked her there. Pentheus is the boomers and zoomers are her victim. It's really interesting. Oh, the bugs mean. That's pretty good. So true, Pearl, so true. These hoes need to log off forever. What the fuck? Bro. Imagine this is your teammate. You know, if you get shot, your ass is getting left behind. Yeah. Regardless of how much shit is flung during this war, we win. At the end of the day, we win. True. We stay winning. It's inevitable. Sorry, Maria G, but you know the rules. Bruh, Drewski. Bruh. Drewski's just trying to do the most. Aw, dude. Aw, gross. Okay. Bro, that's kind of cook. This is peak gaming. Yeah, Drewski is kind of gay, isn't he?
Alcohol's worse than pot.
Alcohol's worse than pot.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
Basically, isn't alcohol worse than everything?
Yeah. 0 alcohol is better than any.
Right.
2 drinks maximum for an adult non-alcoholic per week. It's kind of the upper threshold. Per week. Wait, what you can do without starting to increase your risk for cancer, increase your, you know, about 5% of all
Business
cancers.
week? Are we talking about 5 business days?
Hey, I'm mixed, but why are white people my favorite?
Weekend exemption. Weekend exemption.
Because you're based.
Drinking's at an all-time low, and I think it's because people realize that, yes, it helps you fall asleep, but your sleep is super lousy. It messes up your gut microbiome. I'm not a teetotaler. I really think that people should do as they wish, but know what they're doing. But in terms of increasing your risk of cancer, especially for women and breast cancer, it's unequivocal. And there's yet another study this week that shows that even moderate drinking is bad. If you enjoy drinking, just limit it and do a bunch of other things like get your morning sunlight, get your exercise, eat well.
This guy thinks that the US wants to overthrow Maduro because of oil reserves. Yeah, he failed his own IQ test. Yeah, that's crazy. Dude, the Family Guy memes, so silly. Like, you ever see like those TikToks of like somebody's like parkouring on Minecraft and like Stewie's explaining like the history of Zionism, you know? Yeah, wait, what is that? What is that joke? Like, never ask a court, what their ethnicity is. That's a joke. You love right-wing white people that don't shill for Israel? You're in the right place. You're in the right place. Welcome to America first. Alright, is there anything else going on here? I was reacting to this, yeah. Okay, that was that. The Terminal List. It was an alright show. Stupid fun, you know? Anything else interesting going on that I can react to? Why is the Military Summary channel putting military e-girls in his thumbnails? Gotta get people to click. It's just been so slow. There's really not a lot to talk about other than like kind of like retarded drama. Like even my recommendeds are just like slop. Usually I get some like a lot of news related stuff in my feed on YouTube and on X. I see. Dude, how many Holocaust movies has Adrian Brody been in? The Pianist, The Brutalist. He's just always playing this tortured Jewish savant. Yeah, for real, man. Let's go. Yeah. I have to mind my P's and Q's and all that because I'm on YouTube. Bro. Beardson. Oh, Cappy Army.
The United States is conducting a ton of clandestine missions in the South China Sea that we never hear about. From covert operations against China to building alliances and fighting terrorists. Today, I'm going to piece together declassified CIA documents and personal accounts to do a deep dive on the legitimately insane American black ops across the Pacific. First, we need to know about the guys pulling these missions off. America's first Special Forces Group is the team responsible for missions in this just gigantic hog of an area of operations. I mean, it covers everything from India to China, down through Southeast Asia and across the island chains to the U.S. Pacific coastline. This region spans across over...
Something tells me that this is dipping into an obsession for you. Is this really academic, Kumquat? I feel like this is feeding into your own sick fantasy. I don't know how torturing the cock and balls of Chinese POWs how does that help the war effort again?
1,000
Kumquat's like war effort. What are you talking about?
different languages, the world's 3 largest economies, biggest armies, 36 different countries.
Just went on Tucker. Tucker Carlson, bro. You still watch Tucker? All my homies hate Tucker. No, this was yesterday. Yeah, I don't really know. So this guy is a musician.
16 time zones, and 50% of the world's population and Earth's surface.
Behind these cold hard numbers, though, are some of the most beautiful views in ancient cultures that brought us things my viewers love the most, like gunpowder and anime.
It's about 5,000 miles from San Francisco to Okinawa, so to cut down on response time, they have an entire battalion of operators already forward deployed year-round here at Torii Station. In addition to that, SF Detachment 39 is forward deployed here in Songam, Korea. What's on First Group's to-do list? 5 out of their 7 mutual defense treaty allies are located here in the Pacific, which means if one of these nations are attacked, the United States is required to respond with just an offensive amount of ordnance. America and China have long been suspicious of one another's intentions and have tried some creative ways of determining what they're really up to.
I still love Aaron Lewis, and Tucker
September
still talks about
2008,
things.
4 men.
The thing about Tucker, the only value you would gain out of watching Tucker is to observe what controlled opposition is doing. That's really the value you gain out of listening to Tucker, is to sort of get a beat on how they're modifying their messaging and their strategy. Because it is a limited hangout. You can't expect the full truth from Tucker Carlson. He also just straight up lies all the time. He's not trustworthy. He's not authentic at all. So, and Candace is just a fucking retard, dude. Every day that goes by, I swear, it's just like she's just getting like dumber and dumber.
Okay, so apparently there was a kissing scene with 2 brothers that took place on this smash hit series. Everyone's just like, why is this necessary? Why do we need gay incest in this moment for the show to be good? And the storyline is about elites, and they're kind of getting away with a lot of stuff. And the hotel is named the White Lotus Hotel. Nobody really knew why this was named the White Lotus Hotel, or at least I didn't know. I knew nothing about that term White Lotus at all. I thought it was just like maybe a
Some
pretty
news.
flower. I don't know. Maybe
for
some
news,
sort of a bug.
like if you need raw news, you can just like read like New York Times, Axios, or like Telegram. I like Rerum Novarum. Madman's okay. Millie Spectator is pretty good. I haven't kept up with it though. I think Rerum Novarum is like probably the best all-in-one for like immediate updates.
I had no idea. Well, you're not going to believe this. We received another email, and somebody gave me a tip and said, hey, Candace, I'm trying to access this file, but I am getting the last name Trogno in the context of China in the 18th century. Now, the 18th century is a pretty big century, right? Because the French Revolution happens in 1789. And by and large, the French Revolution was a sexual revolution, okay? It tells us that, and I'm recapping here, a handful of Jesuits, under the guise of saying that we're here on a Catholic mission,
it's the Jesuits now.
came in to China.
No, she's really piecing it all together.
Being Father Trogno. I kid you not. The full name is Father Francois.
Oh, it all ties
Theodore
back to
Trogno.
Bridget Macron being a dude.
To China. And then it tells us very quickly in this book that the Catholics were accused of being White Lotus members. And I'm like, okay, that is interesting. What is White Lotus? And then I learned that
It's just like the TV show.
This big rebellion that took place in China. It was called the White Lotus Rebellion. And in my preliminary research, it tells me that they aspects of this, there were accusations that were thrown of sexual impropriety that was taking place. I don't know if it had something to do
This is far worse than
with
CBT.
tantric sex rituals. It's weird. It is weird, okay? I am fascinated by that period in general, like I said,
Bro.
not only because the French Revolution happens, but because another hit dog that hollered in all of this was
What's up,
when I
Zeb?
talked about
How's it
Jacob
going?
Frank. When I talked
The
about
pin video
this
on your channel
Frankist
specifically addresses Tucker
movement
Controlled
that
App.
took place
Worth the watch, promise.
At this same time,
Oh, yeah,
they were individuals.
We
that were, it was a
we've
cult of
we've all
military.
covered
They
the
believed in
whole
constantly
Controlled
changing
App
their
thing.
names. And Jacob Frank's
Yeah, dude,
cousin
it's
was
just funny,
the
man.
person behind the French Revolution. And so now we're learning
Tucker
that
has
in this
lost-
exact same period,
Tucker,
people are
like, what the fuck is Candace even talking about, dude? What is she talking about?
accused of
It's like
doing stuff in China.
it's like white. It's just
I
like
need to
blending
know
into white
what was
noise,
going
man.
on. Yeah. This guy, Ephraim Joseph Hirschfeld. Hirschfeld was the last name. They just
Yeah,
were,
W's
they
up.
were Freemasons at the end of the day. They were the main activists of the Masonic Lodge.
Dude,
and they were
this is
active in Germany, they
painful.
were active in Austria.
This is
between
fucking
1783 and 1790.
painful.
And obviously, we know the French Revolution happens at that time. So, lot to process there. I need to know more about what were the sexual perversions that they were accused of in this White Lotus sect, if anything.
What the fuck?
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know anything right now.
Yeah, you don't know anything right now. You don't know anything. Okay, wait. So it's like, so French Revolution happens, sexual revolution. White Lotus is sexual. The TV show, it's sexual degeneracy. There were a bunch of Catholics. One of them was Trogneau, the same surname as Bridget Macron, or apparently whatever his name was before he became Bridget, was also present in China in the 1800s on a Jesuit mission around the time of the White Lotus Revolution in China. Therefore, it's all connected. It's like, brother, what are we fucking doing? What are we fucking doing? Oh, dude. Yeah, we're all losing brain cells together, dude. You behold the not so pale horse. Shit. There was no connection between the Chinese White Lotus movement and the Catholic priests. I'll go back into your corner. It's just, dude, what the fuck, man? Ugh. People watch this. People unironically watch this. It's like, how many views is she getting? Ah, shit. Dude. Bruh. She's getting like 1 million views. Dude. White Lotus was part of a Buddhist sect. Let's look. I don't really want to do a super deep dive right now because it's generally pretty boring. I know nothing about the White Lotus. Pure Land Buddhist. Apocalyptic movements, Taoism, New Age or Divine. So let me get this straight. So her argument, she's saying that because they were Jesuit missionaries, because there were Jesuit missionaries into China in the same century of the same century that the White Lotus Rebellion occurred, and because one of them was ostensibly French, and the French Revolution also occurred in a century prior, that somehow they're all related and it's sexual in nature because the French Revolution was a sexual revolution. I mean, maybe as a tertiary consequence of rebelling against a Catholic monarch. Dude. Be nice to Candace. Nick says she's his biological son, and he is her. Yeah. That was a good bit, dude. Can you imagine how funny it would be if Candace just is somehow vindicated on all of this, and it all comes out that she was right? Can you imagine how? I actually, that's all. That would almost. I would almost prefer that outcome. That would be so funny if that were actually true. If she just like Rain Manned all of these events and just saw clearly where everyone else hand waved it away as lunatic conspiracy theories. Only she, the brilliant Black Queen in her Giga Brain, pieced all the pieces together, where the stupid white man was just too arrogant to see the truth. Can you imagine? Maybe we're all wrong. Maybe Candace is based after all, and we're just behind the times. We're just behind the times, man. Wake up, sheeple. Wake up. Man. Like, what do you even say to this, dude? What do you even say? Faith Merrill. Oh, another Baptist. What has Richard Spencer been up to? You got anything interesting going on?
All these alt-right people, and I'm in an interracial marriage, and I got a lot of stuff directed at me and my wife on online message boards and Twitter and so forth. So I definitely buy that this was a racialized discourse, unlike any that we've had in a really long time. But I don't blame Trump's voters for that. The people that I blame for that are actually typically well-educated coastal elitists, people like Richard Spencer and the alt-right. It's telling that the alt-right is driven by primarily very well-educated, relatively smart, relatively stable people. It's not driven by people in the Rust Belt who go on 4chan and talk about Michelle Obama in these really nasty ways, right? It's 2,500, I mean, whatever the number of people is. I've heard estimates up to like 100,000. But these are people who are really well educated and are cognitive elites in their own weird way.
Right. Well, he's right. He's right about that. He is right about that. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Bridget had a wiener. It's one of those things where it's like, who cares? It's like, why does she devote so much time to covering Bridget Macron? Why not talk about JD Vance? If she's gonna connect all the dots, put the pieces together, why would she not talk about how JD Vance is a total creation? He was born out of a Peter Thiel fucking test tube.
You can stop there. What is the real stuff he's talking about? Seriously, what is the real stuff? And who's the president of the United States whose name he will not mention? For some reason, he treats the president of the United States. He sort of treats him as though he is Voldemort. If you say his name, he will appear. But all the things he's saying right here are condemning the president of the United States. Let's just be very clear about this. When he says that people are being distracted by bombing Iran, who's the one who bombed Iran? The president of the United States. When he says it's a distraction to get the boys out of the girls' sports, which is not a distraction, it's a major issue in the United States that we ended the trans threat to truth and reality. When he says that, who did that? That was Donald J. Trump. And then he says he's feeding appetizers. But he wants a country, he says, where people aren't sleeping on the sidewalks, which, by the way, is typically a local and state issue, where people aren't ODing on drugs. And then he says, why can't you stop it? You've got the U.S. military. Don't you have SEAL Team 6? I have a question. Is Tucker in favor of using SEAL Team 6 to go after the Mexican drug cartels? I kind of am. So I would love to know if Tucker is in favor of an interventionist conflict in Mexico in order to take out the Mexican drug cartels. Really? Like, is he? If so, he should probably spell it out. But notice there's never a solution. He doesn't even have anybody on to discuss the problems on his show. He will never talk about how to solve the problems. This is why I say it's about demoralization. It's about making you feel about the country. Because there is never a solution emerging from Tucker Carlson. I'll give this to Zoran Mamdani, who I think is one of the worst people in American political history. His solutions are absolute trash garbage. But at least he's offering some. Tucker goes out there and doesn't offer any solutions at all.
He's just asking questions.
Tucker goes out there and posits that everything is wrong in the world. Every victory is in fact an appetizer or a loss. In fact, he says, elites are using Iran as a distraction while they steal our money. Who I have a question. Who bombed Iran? Why don't you say his name? Say it. I dare you. I triple dog dare you. The President of the United States is the one who pulled the trigger on the Iran attack, the most successful single foreign policy.
Yep. Yeah, you know, POV, the worst guy you know, just made a great point. So POV, the worst man on planet Earth, just said something you agree with. Yeah. That kind of characterizes much of like the conservative right wing media. It is just like grievance politics. It's just kind of complaining about shit. The woke. Look at this. It's a black guy beating up another white person. Look at that. The liberals are the real problem. Don't you miss like 20 years ago when America was less gay and we had, you know, women with big tits on television instead of these just like fat ugly libtards? And it's like no, he like correctly characterized much of pretty much all of mainstream conservative media. And Tucker's like the worst offender, but he massages it by putting on this like veil of inquiry. Like he says this all the time, he's just asking questions. He's just a normal guy just asking questions. This sort of pseudo-intellectualism.
You can stop there.
I'm in favor of solutions. I'm in favor of solving problems. Most of these people are not. So. Alright, let's go back to our...
Were hired as crew, transporting a 40-foot yacht to a businessman in Japan who had bought the vessel. Sounds routine, right? But of course, none of that was true. Despite all the receipts and bills of sale on board as proof of their cover story, the vessel was actually owned and operated by a CIA shell company, and the 4 crew members were actually from the CIA's Special Activities Center Maritime Branch. They were sent out from their safe house in Malaysia. Their target for the mission was a small island off the coast of Luzon in the northern Philippines. This was close to a ring of artificial islands that the Chinese military had been constructing in this contested territory that the United States and its allies wanted to keep an eye on. But things got complicated very quickly. Using commercial scuba gear, 2 of the crew would dive off the boat, swim unseen to the island, and plant a pod full of advanced, highly classified surveillance devices along the shoreline. The expertise of the 4 CIA operatives reveal a lot. Stephen Sinek was a former Navy explosives expert, Michael Perch was an expert diver, James McCormick was a marine engineer, and Daniel Meeks would provide operational support for the whole mission. To avoid drawing attention from the Chinese military, the pod was disguised to look like a rock and used only passive electronic listening devices that would not emit any kind of traceable signal. Even if the yacht was stopped and searched by the Chinese Navy, no one would think to question some innocent old scuba divers trying to enjoy the tropic scenery. The plan was to let the pod snoop around for a week or 2, then the CIA crew would return from Japan to pick it back up and send the data back to headquarters.
Maybe the biggest red flag to the Chinese Navy would be like it's like four white dudes. 4 white dudes. Maybe they should have found like a couple of Asian guys. Don't they have like Asian Navy SEALs?
On the surface, a very simple drop-off and pick-up mission. Unfortunately for the team, Tropical Storm Higos was forming in the Western Pacific, and it threatened to pass through the area. A 40-foot commercial yacht just isn't built to handle those kind of conditions. The team had a very difficult choice to make, whether or not to scrub
I guess
the
you
mission
could say they were
before
passport
departing
bros or
Malaysia.
something
The team
on
decided
vacation.
to go for it ultimately. But the storm kept its constant course over the Philippines and barreled straight for the operational area. There was no time to turn around. Officers back home at HQ in Langley listened as the team reported severe storm conditions over the radio and watched in horror as the eye of the storm passed directly over the vessel's tracking beacon. Then the beacon went dark. The US government couldn't even mobilize any US military assets in the area because they feared blowing the mission's cover. Japanese defense forces did search for them, but they never found anything. The team was officially declared lost at sea a few months later. One of the officers, Stanek's dive buddies, said, quote, "We knew better than to ask questions." Another officer pinned the blame for the fatalities on then Special Activities Center Chief. "There were a lot of pressures to do ops. They just didn't have to die. They did a mission that you didn't have to do. The 4 officers' stars were later added to the memorial wall at the CIA headquarters. This mission was barely talked about in the media. The U.S. Special Forces preparations against China have also gone largely unnoticed. First Group has had to evolve from a counter-terror organization to developing a plan to counter a Chinese invasion in Taiwan. And here's one new declassified way they plan to do it. It's 1800 hours at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. A U.S. Army Special Forces ODA is kitted up standing in the belly of a C-130. Their mission? Get on to T2 Island. It's a speck of land in the South China Sea held by the Philippines, sitting just 30 kilometers away from Chinese-occupied Subu Reef. It's one of the islands most likely to be contested in the event of a Chinese war with Taiwan. Maybe you could walk me through, it sounds like it's like a joint forcible entry, it's getting on the island. What are some of the challenges?
We actually were the first ODA that proof of concept a military
channel
operation jump into an island in the South China Sea. The idea behind this was that you could have operators essentially hey-ho in from 20, 30, 40 miles outside of these islands, hit the islands, and then that way be able to guide in Marine HIMARS units.
The C-130 takes off under radio silence, hugs the sea at low altitude for the first leg of the flight to stay under radar coverage. Total flight time, just under 4 hours. The aircraft stays offshore, avoiding the island's known air defense threat rings. The team exits over the ocean, free-falling silently through the night sky. At 4,000 feet, they pull their chutes. It's a wet drop 5 kilometers off the shore, if you know what I mean. The operators have to swim toward a designated small combat boat that was already pre-positioned by Allied Filipino forces just 2 hours earlier. Everything timed down to the minute, with OCD levels of accuracy for the ODA team. Within 2 hours, the Green Berets have set up a secure perimeter and cleared a sexy landing strip. A HIMARS battery is then flown onto the island. The Green Berets start running ISR with drones, sending target information to the HIMARS launchers. They're painting targets like the Chinese radar arrays on Subi Reef.
Bring in those HIMARS units with help through us actually taking the islands initially, and then be able to sort of island hop our way through the South China Sea on these tiny little islands, bringing that sort of HIMARS feasibility forward that allows them to then obviously attack Chinese naval ships. I can talk about that because we broadcasted it huge so that China would see it specifically. And sometimes we do this in the military where we want, our adversaries to know some of our capabilities.
The launchers fire and load back up into a C-130, and they're gone from the island before they can be fixed by Chinese counterbat. But it's not all explosives. The United States and China are also waging a quieter war against one another. You may never have heard of the Special Collections Service. They sound innocently like a subdivision of the U.S. Postal Service. In reality, they're a highly classified joint operation between the CIA and the NSA. It's a beautiful, unholy alliance formed and cooked in the depths of intelligence hell. This isn't even acknowledged officially. It's codenamed F6. And it wasn't really fully confirmed until Edward Snowden leaked its existence. Their whole job is to get eavesdropping equipment into impossible places like embassies, foreign governments, and offices. They're like burglars that are bankrolled by a government with a blank check. They've been called the Mission Impossible team of the United States. It's just a crazy force. And
until the C-130s get knocked out of the sky.
An order for a 767
yeah, they're not exactly
Boeing aircraft
stealthy.
Because in 2000 they didn't
nor are they
know any
fast.
better. By 2002, the aircraft was being fitted in San Antonio, Texas. The maintenance had started a year prior. It was all routine, but what wasn't routine was it was being done under the close watch of heavily armed Chinese security guards. Why? Because the plane was like the Air Force One for then Chinese President Jiang Zemin. It was only a few days before the plane was scheduled to shuttle Mr. Xi to the Asia-Pacific Economic Forum in Shanghai, where the two heads of state, America and China, would be meeting. Chinese technicians reportedly found something
I wish
odd
you gave
when
a
they were-
date for some of these operations. I want to know when that exercise took place. Or was that just a planned exercise with the HIMARS and the wet drop? Because if this were like 10 or 15 years ago, like I'm sure all of that's out of date. And we'd probably have a different approach, different strategies.
running routine tests before the journey. There was a kind of static whine coming from several devices inside the
like considering the massive increase in ISR capabilities, not only due to satellite launches but the proliferation of drones. Yeah, it's a lot harder to pull off something like that.
plane, a surveillance bug was found in his private bathroom on the jet, then another was found above the bed in his...
We basically funded China. They would still be on bicycles. People should swing. Yeah, I mean, we did by moving much of our, pretty much most of our manufacturing over there. A lot of technocrats invested in China early during the Cold War, trying to pull them into our sphere of influence. And the Chinese, they picked their own side. Smart. They took their own side. And, yeah, there's a lot we could learn from that. I mean, like, imagine if America made everything. Yeah. Short-sightedness, but that's what happens when our economy is run by internationals that don't really care about our national interests. Oh, it's 2014? Okay. Good to know. So yeah, like, I don't know if that strategy would still fly today. No pun intended. Like, how many drones is China making a day? Like, thousands upon thousands of drones are being produced by China every single day. Yeah, it's kind of scary, man. Like, just how rapidly the battlefild has changed. It's there's more thermals than ever before, more drones. Trying to run any kind of stealth operation is next to very difficult. But now, I mean, because one of the things America's been developing is anti-drone warfare. Large, like, EMF emitters that fry electronics in like a cone. So if there's a drone swarm coming at you, you would ideally be able to just EMF them all out of the sky. I don't know how effective those are and what the range is, but if you have these like roaming dead zones where because in the near future it's just going to be like a grid, right? You're going to have like a net of just surveillance drones everywhere. That's where we're heading. We're looking at Russia, Ukraine, drones are becoming a bigger and bigger part. So it's fair to say at some point the doctrine is going to change such that you're going to have a constant like net of drones covering regions. And if you have this like blatant dead zone, that tells you a lot. That tells you, okay, there's some anti-drone tech over there. Maybe we should like drop some bombs in that area, try to take it out. So it's interesting to see how warfare is developing in real time.
His plane's presidential suite. I had no idea this.
This is when War Games is documented there, where U.S. and Filipino forces did Halo jumps, but the exact date is hard to find. That, yeah, might be classified. They already have that with the Predator and Reaper drones. Yeah, but Predator and Reaper drones are going to be hard to maintain in a near-peer conflict because they're slow and they can be easily shot down. And so in a near-peer conflict where neither side has air superiority, it becomes more... the scale of operations, of aerial operations, sort of diminishes. You'll favor smaller, harder to track, lower profile drones over larger loitering drones. Yeah, we see that a lot. We've seen that throughout large portions of the Russia-Ukraine war, where there was not a lot of air power. There's not a lot of fighting going on from the air because both sides had anti-air capabilities. And so that's one of the reasons why things went back towards trench warfare. And it became very archaic. It became about, small mixed unit tactics and artillery. Artillery played a big part. Because the larger footprint you had, the more of a target you were on the ground to FPV drones. And so like these large, you can see like how a lot of these, like, this was particularly rough for like Russia that tried to maintain their supply lines, you know, just these like graveyards of these convoys of vehicles that were just targeted by like either guided munitions or drones, FPV drones. So yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if what's like the latest trophy tech? Interestingly enough, I think we realistically might see tanks come back in a big way if they really double down on trophy systems and they become like a shield, like an anti-drone APS shield that just moves and it sort of provides this protected area from either guided munitions or drones. A bubble shield, kind of. It's kind of like a bubble shield, but you know, it's not a bubble. So it's not like a bubble shield at all. No, but it's sort of the same concept. You have like a safety area, you know, as long as you stay close enough. I mean, I still wouldn't want to be anywhere near something exploding, but better than getting hit by it. But yeah, who knows? Maybe because I know they're not slowing down. They're not stopping like the development of main battle tanks or anything like that. So I think we might see a heavy shift towards APSs and like mounted shotgun systems. You know, airburst or pellets. Yeah, Star Wars Episode 1, yeah. That's nothing. You see the big military parade and that lady on the tank was holding our drone and making sound effects? Yeah, we just need fat ladies with drones. Pew, pew. Like she's playing with like an action figure. The Russians have no idea what they're up against. They'll never see this coming. But then maybe we can do away with goofy ass shit like this, you know? Like you see like some of like the constructions they're putting on like these Russian tanks. Doesn't even look like a like they have like cages and like a bunch of like rope and shit. It's like, okay, what you even see out of that thing? World War I type shit. Yeah. Anyway.
CIA was naughty like that, wanting to know what the Chinese president's dirty talk was like. The plane was brought to a military airfield north of Beijing, while their investigators looked into how this breach of Chinese security happened. The operation fit the bill for the kind of mission that the Special Collection Service is responsible for. The CIA bribed or blackmailed one of the Chinese security agents, then the NSA provided the device which was then reportedly operated via a satellite connection. And that's who planted the bug, most likely, one of these Chinese defectors. This is something that could never happen today under this geopolitical climate. The two nations would just never be exchanging sensitive aircraft like that in the first place. In fact, the two countries are so completely closed off to one another that they're resorting to YouTube to send messages. Did you know the CIA has an official YouTube channel? No. I already asked, they denied my request to become their influencer. Starting in 2024, in a bold and really shocking move, they started releasing a series of Chinese language videos onto their YouTube channel. Look at how sleek and high production value they are. A whole crew put millions of dollars into producing this CIA video. They hired entire crews and lighting teams and everything from Hollywood. They're clearly designed to appeal to high-profile Chinese business owners, government officials, or military generals who have got a bone to pick with their government. Someone who's disillusioned by the CCP. Maybe someone who one of their buddies was black bagged and put into prison in Xinjiang for political crimes or something like that. These videos are fully narrated in Mandarin to appeal to that audience. It gets weirder. The CIA even gives you instructions in the video on how to access this secure site on the dark web where you can reveal information about China to them. This way you won't have to worry about big Chinese brother.
Bro, I feel like if you even click on that video in China, like you're gonna get black bagged. Are we serious right now? Are we serious?
You're whispering sweet nothings into this.
Are we serious right now?
CIA's ear. The campaign reportedly generated tens of thousands of hits within just weeks. So apparently if you want someone at the agency to read your message, you can send it there and all of the CIA interns will dig through it.
There's another part of the way the CIA organization is laid out where there's the political action.
When it comes to PSYOPs or political influence covert action, it's picking the right people with the right experience that can really know the differences of how people think and what motivates them. We need to be way more savvy when it comes to how we help shape the psychological and influence battle space.
China's own Ministry of State Security, the MSS, has launched counter campaigns, warning their people of the consequences of betraying their country. The former CIA director Bill Burns told the Financial Times in 2025 that 20% of their entire budget is now devoted to stopping Chinese spies and in turn spying on China.
That's crazy.
Pacific stonk going up. But what if I told you these two spy agencies, the United States, China, CIA, MSS, have actually worked closely together on the same team in the past? Like those episodes where Batman and the Joker had to team up to defeat something even more evil and more communist. In 1980, the CIA pulled off one of the strangest ops of the Cold War. It built a multi-million-dollar spy station inside communist China. This was done in full cooperation and authorization of Beijing. Now, why would they agree to something like that? Because back then, China hated Moscow almost as much as Washington did. After 1969 border clashes where hundreds of Chinese and Soviet troops were killed, Chinese president at the time, Xiaoping, was happy to take American tech if it meant keeping an eye on his old frenemy. The goal was...
And that ties back into what we were talking about earlier with the technocrats investing in China.
A priority to eavesdrop on the Soviet
Chinese
Union's
manufacturing.
most sensitive missile tests, ICBM tests, and troop movements from right across their border. They picked the western region of Xinjiang, whose perfectly line of sight to Soviet launch ranges in Kazakhstan. The project is codenamed Chestnut, costing the United States an estimated $90 million over its life, pulled from the black budget, of course. And that covered the C-141 flights, hauling in 50 tons of NSA intercept equipment, 2 massive parabolic dish arrays, and a secure fiber link back to U.S. analysts. Inside, about 20 American specialists rotated with 40 PLA signals officers. Together, they vacuumed up tons of raw data on Soviet missiles, radio chatter, and troop movements. The partnership ran even deeper, though. It would be like if the Rebel Alliance teamed up with the Empire and decided to rule the galaxy
together. I mean, the CIA just wants to destabilize China. So, yeah, I mean, they're trying to get assets everywhere. But yeah, they view China as a threat, so they're trying to they're targeting China. They're trying to widen the cracks in the Chinese security net. Because they sort of had, like, the whole censorship apparatus in China was designed with preventing Western interference from reaching their country after they saw how the CIA and Western propaganda, and it's not even like it was necessarily entirely intended. Some of it was like sort of like a secondary or tertiary consequence of having like a kind of decadent society, particularly like in the 80s. If you showed like the average American city and like the way people lived and were partying in the 80s to some poor Chinese villager, yeah, they're like, oh shit, America's awesome. And like, oh shit, you know what? Maybe America's number one and not China. But combine that with the more subversive elements like the degeneracy and global homo and all that. They viewed Western influence as a threat to the very fabric of their society, and that was one of the biggest reasons for the mass censorship that you see in China today. Your kumquat's CIA? Yeah, he wishes he was CIA.
Heather, in the book,
he has a shirt that says CIA. And he got a little badge when he was a kid, and he still wears it to this day. Got his picture on and everything. But his name is misspelled
America's
because,
secret war,
you know.
in Afghanistan. They detail how Brzezinski from the U.S. State Department went to China and asked them to work together with the United States to send weapons to the Mujahideen to fight against the Soviets in Afghanistan. China agreed to do it. On the down low, as long as the U.S. pinky promised not to tell anyone about their secret relationship, China sent 300 advisors to train the militia across the border in Pakistan, and they sent over $400 million worth of weaponry, which was a lot back then. The weapons they sent were nearly identical to what the Russians were using, so they kept a level of plausible deniability, and much of this didn't come out until years later. Then, in June 1989, after the Tiananmen Square killings, relations iced over between the spy agencies of the United States and China, and those spy stations were destroyed, and this kind of cooperation wouldn't happen again. And just and
again, a lot of that goes back to Juan Huning's visit to America. It completely shifted his opinion on the country. He did a complete 180. When he visited America, saw how degenerate it was, he's like, all right, we cannot let America influence our society because we don't want to end up like that. So it's understandable. Look at our country now. The mess. Look at the feminism and all that. The rampant degeneracy. Honestly, understandable crash out from Mr. Hunig. But, still, that's not a endorsement of China, though.
Mentioning this means that this video will get blacklisted. The entire American Special Forces and CIA actually has its origins right here in the Pacific. You see, during World War II, the US fought across here against the Japanese Empire when they were going absolutely buck wild. But what a lot of people don't know is that at the same time, the US was covertly funneling billions of dollars worth of aid and weapon systems to China to keep their fight alive. Which is nuts, because supplying China with weapons today would be considered cray-cray. And the United States didn't...
I mean, it's almost like how we fought on the side of the Soviets during World War II. You know, circumstances change. Obviously, we're all red-pilled on that, but it's a matter of opportunity.
Just stop working with their allies in the region after that and say, see you later, bye. No, ever since then, the US has remained deeply involved in the security.
I had no idea that.
Because it's like, at the same time, it's like, their woman will be selling their pussy on the corner for $5 when they turn their cities into rubble. That's, yeah, I'm not fighting for, I'm not going to war. Can you imagine, dude? You're gonna go fight China? Dude, the average Chinese soldier probably cares way more about China than your average American soldier. And there's also over 1 billion of them. It's like fighting an ant swarm. You're gonna come back to your home. It's like you're gonna have PTSD. You're gonna be in debt. The VA's not gonna help you. You found out your wife cheated on you with 4 black men she met on Tinder. Like that's what you're fighting for. Yeah. I don't know how they're gonna get recruiting numbers up, because young white men are very disillusioned. Oh, thanks for the 1 bit. I keep saying I'm gonna up the minimum on that, but I need to actually do that.
American SF were going to Mongolia and chilling there and hanging there.
It's recent. I was one of the first ODAs there in 2019. We've just recently started to work on that alliance. They really like America. It looks like I'm sure you've seen in Ukraine, in the sort of that old Soviet bloc, the way everything's built.
Yeah.
It looks like Ukraine, or it looks like Russia there. Everything is like Russian structured. They send all of their military officers to Russia. So they love Russia. Which is so weird. They love Russia. They love the United States. They're cordial with North Korea. And they don't like China. So
Mongolia seems kind of chill.
Super cool and interesting place.
What is the Special Forces operator's strategy here? U.S. trade is worth more than $3 trillion here, making the trade routes in the Pacific a core interest to the United States. American Special Forces...
China may have significantly less than 1 billion. Russia and Japan watch their demographics carefully. India, on the other hand, is full of poo people. Yeah, India, dude. Don't even get me started on India. Yeah, they might have less than 1 billion. You know, the one-child policy definitely hurt their population. But regardless, it's probably fair to say that they have at least twice, maybe 3 times our population. And they're almost all Chinese compared to our country that's filled with immigrants and people that don't really care about America. I think they're going to have a far easier time mobilizing their population than we will ours. That's what it looks like. Latin America and Venezuela. What are we talking about? What, that we're going to go to war with the cartels and Maduro? Yeah, we probably are.
Work closely with the nations here from their perspective to defend their sovereignty, and they do it at the invitation of the governments, who see U.S. support as a deterrent. The Philippines, Taiwan, Mongolia, Australia, Thailand, Japan, and South Korea are just a few of the close allies, and often it's American operators on the ground who help keep these international diplomatic relations warm. But the Chinese Communist Party see it very differently than the international community. They argue that it's always been Chinese sovereignty in this area for centuries, but Washington frames its presence as keeping sea lanes open to anyone who wants to ride. It's always the small disagreements that can lead to thermonuclear war, isn't it?
And I got to be a little bit more careful about talking about this in Taiwan, because, I mean, we are there as Special Forces units. We have been for a long time. You know, I mean, we're sort of embedded there in developing sort of all the backside unconventional warfare. If China were to actually try to invade the island, what we do, we go in and we, you know, work by, with, and through, train, advise, equip foreign nations' militaries. That's essentially what we're doing with the Taiwanese Special Forces.
It's
the war
not
could
all
spill
the US
into the United
China,
States.
Though. Some of these black ops
Yeah, it
happen
could.
over 500 miles
I mean,
south
think about
of
it, man.
mainland China.
We have who knows how many illegal immigrants in here. And just look at how many immigrants are waving foreign flags. If something were to kick off with, like, let's say Mexico, or in Mexico rather, you do have to wonder about the allegiance of a lot of these people. It's kind of a problem. And like, even if people are more loyal to America, it's like, how loyal? If half their family's in Mexico, how loyal can you realistically be when, you know, your heritage and your family members, your little family members, are on the other side? Oh.
The details of how First Group got caught up in...
Yeah, dude, if I mean, it's fair to say that the cartels will absolutely strike back. You know, they could spike a lot of their fentanyl shipments to kill thousands of Americans. Thousands more Americans, I should say. Thanks, Kumquat. Thanks for all the bits, the single bits, the pennies. Throwing pennies at like a caged animal. That's what you're doing right now. Appreciate it. Fuck,
multiple
yeah,
firefights
whatever.
in Asia are now only just coming to light many years later. Starting in 2001, U.S. Special Forces were deployed to the Philippines to help against Islamic terrorists. The Filipino government had a massive terror problem on their hands, trying to overthrow their government in the south. By 2009, there were 600 U.S. military personnel advising and assisting the armed forces of the Philippines against terrorists. We now know there were a bunch of incidents of firefights of U.S. advisors getting caught in ambushes and engaging enemy here. In fact, by 2014, the CIA was sending in its paramilitary officers to straight up murk terrorist leaders willy-nilly.
You want to talk about the Philippines? I mean, the Philippines, like, we were actively.
About the
first, it was
Chinese and
actively in
Koreans in
combat
SoCal,
southern,
I don't go to mall
Philippines
because
in
it's all
places like
Asian.
Mindanao for like 20.
I mean, the Chinese and Koreans are, for the most part, chill. They're docile, and they're not gonna fucking like steal your shit. You know, they're definitely. Like, I think like Koreans are more of a model minority than the Chinese, but yeah, as far as minorities go, I mean, there's worse out there.
During the global war on terror that nobody knew, because in no wars you couldn't get a CIB, but like first group dudes were down there fighting all the time because there's a huge terrorism problem from the southern Philippines down through Malaysia. You think, and most of it comes up through Malaysia. So a lot of people don't understand Malaysia is what 95% Islamic, and so a lot of that ISIS spread of ISIS and Islamic terrorist groups moved its way up through Indonesia and into the southern Philippines.
Combat operations continued until 2017 at the Battle of Marwa.
I think like the most annoying thing about like Asians in public is that they're always like moving clusters, and they move very slowly. They're all like, they're looking at shit and like not really paying attention, and you're like walking behind them like, okay, come on, can we pick up the pace here a little bit? Yeah, like, dude, if you've gone to a Costco in the Big 25, then you know it's like you're not even in America anymore. If you go to a Costco in a big city in the Big 25, you are stepping like into the third world pretty much. It's like the most infuriating thing. Like the last time I went was months ago on like a random Thursday in the early afternoon, like not exactly peak hours. It was just packed. It was just like packed with like Indians and like Chinese people. And I'm just like not hearing English and Mexican. Like I'm hearing all these other fucking languages. I'm like, dude, this is. I'm about to fucking crash out in the middle of this Costco.
Which was kind of the last climactic battle here. After that, terrorist groups' presence had been severely degraded in the Philippines. All told, 3 U.S. personnel died in the fighting. The major takeaway here, though, is that it ended up being an outstanding reason for the U.S. to get closer with the Philippines government and develop a kind of cozy relationship. This buddy-buddy relationship has now bloomed and come in handy years later as it's become one of the main allies and key logistics hubs for U.S. troops in the region in their goal to deter war with China.
It's a super sensitive country because they're trying to keep peaceful ties and good business relationships with China and the United States. And so having American special forces and military, that's a very tight alliance that China is not going to be happy about. Like, they don't want to hear that there's U.S. soldiers doing combat operations on their doorstep.
That might sound insane, thinking about a war happening today between these two giants. But a lot of people forget that the U.S. already fought a war with China in Korea. At the time,
well, maybe the Chinese should have put their troops in the Philippines to fight ISIS.
CIA cooked up a wild attempt.
Sounds like L diplomacy on China's part
to take the pressure off American forces who were fighting against the Chinese in Korea. America had worked alongside the Kuomintang inside China since all the way back in World War II. It was a large Chinese civil war that was happening between these factions. So they sent billions of dollars of weapons and aid to the Kuomintang to fight the Japanese. During World War II, the precursor of the CIA was responsible for setting up what was called the Burma Section, or Detachment 101 of the OSS. Detachment 101 was the first American unit ever assembled to conduct guerrilla warfare, espionage, and sabotage behind enemy lines. Their mission was to reopen the Burma Road and send billions of dollars in weapons and supplies to China. ever since the Kuomintang lost control of China and had to fall back to Taiwan after the war, they've been searching for ways to retake mainland China from the communist government. The tables were turned back then. They suggested to the US government that they had a loyal following of 1 million fighters in the mainland, just waiting for them to rise up if they had United States backing. The source of their intelligence was hard to argue with. They got it straight from Trust Me, Bro. The Pentagon was skeptical, but they put together ammo to arm 200K fighters anyways. The plan was to train, arm, and coordinate anti-communists within China. It was called the Third Force. By 1952, CIA planes from their civil air transport were dropping thousands of Kuomintang fighters that were personally trained by them across the mainland. But the initial drops failed, and they were all killed or captured. That's when two young CIA paramilitary officers joined the Third Force program, John Downey and Richard Fecteau. This second team of indigenous forces airdropped into northern China sometime in mid-July of 1952. This time it went swimmingly. In November, that team radioed back to base to CIA. They made a big break. They'd made contact with a local guerrilla leader who had captured documents with valuable intelligence. Sounds dope. Things were looking up for a change. The CIA field office arranged an immediate airdrop of the material. The way the CIA exfiltrated personnel was actually kind of crazy. It was called a snatch pickup, which was kind of similar to the Fulton Skyhook method that you've probably seen in the Metal Gear games. Now, Downey and Fecteau boarded a C-47 cargo plane and took off on a secret mission into hostile airspace. As the C-47 dropped low and lined up for the snatch, then the trap was sprung. Unknown to them, their team on the ground that they'd been communicating with had been compromised. At some point in their mission, communist security forces had captured their team and turned them into double agents working for the communists. The whole thing was a lie, just to bait and lure the CIA in for the kill. Communist forces threw the tarps off their two hidden anti-aircraft guns and opened fire. The guns tore into the plane from both sides, igniting the fuel tanks. The shot-up C-47 broke into two on impact, throwing Downey and Fecteau against the forward bulkhead. The two pilots were killed instantly. Chinese forces were on the downed aircraft within minutes, capturing the surviving American intelligence officers. They were subjugated to endless interrogations, complete with physical and mental abuse. They were held captive for decades before being released in the 1970s when relations between the two nations finally warmed. This wasn't the only time the CIA attempted to extract a valuable person from Chinese-occupied territory. The Himalayan country of Tibet had a long and conflicted history as both an independent nation and as part of China. Tibet attempted to assert its independence from China in the 1950s. They were a deeply religious nation. The Dalai Lama served as both a political and spiritual leader for Tibet. The 14th Dalai Lama had just turned 15 years old and attempted to negotiate with China for their independence. It was going to be peacefully with the People's Republic of China, but Chinese forces weren't having it. They crossed into Tibet in early October 1950, and Tibetan forces in the border region of Chambo were swept aside. The Tibetan government had no choice but to sign China's pre-drafted peace terms. The Dalai Lama chose not to flee the country. As PLA forces marched into the Tibetan capital, the communist government cracked down on religious expression, destroying Buddhist monasteries in eastern Tibet, and a resistance formed against them. The Dalai Lama's brother, who had fled to India, reached out to the US government for support. The US agreed to support the Tibetan rebels through a new CIA program, training and arming Tibetan volunteers outside the country before inserting them back into Tibet. It was called Street Circus, and the CIA program brought over 200 Tibetan resistance fighters to Camp Hale in Colorado for training and advanced operation and intelligence gathering techniques. Once they parachuted back in country, the teams raided PLA positions and kept in constant contact with their CIA handlers through covert radio transceivers. American cargo planes that had cover stories that they were just civilian cargo planes dropped arms and supplies to the resistance, supporting the covert agents through much of the South. CIA Director of Operations for Tibet, John Kennedy Knaus, ran these missions. The CIA officers came up with a way to sneak the Dalai Lama through the Chinese military lines. The officers disguised the Dalai Lama as a Chinese soldier and snuck him out of a side exit from the palace. Once out of the city, the group linked up with the American radio team and headed south together towards resistance-held territory. Dodging military patrols and making their way through the rough terrain, the radio team updated Langley with their location every 24 hours, helping U.S. headquarters track their progress. After a tense 19 days, the Dalai Lama and his CIA escorts reached friendly territory and crossed over into neighboring India. As the news of the Dalai Lama's successful escape reached the people of Tibet, tens of thousands of refugees followed in his wake, making the journey through the mountain passes and into northern India. Among the community living in exile were many young men eager to continue the fight against Chinese occupation of their homeland. A new resistance base was established in the remote Mustang district of Nepal, right on the Tibetan border. From here, CIA trained and supplied resistance fighters and raided the Xinjiang-Tibet Highway, the Chinese military's main supply route into Tibet. During one of these raids, Tibetan fighters recovered a messenger bag full of official documents describing the hardship, famine, and unrest within the Chinese homeland as a result of the communist government's ill-fated Great Leap Forward project. The fighters immediately turned the documents over to their CIA handlers, which turned out to be one of the most important pieces of intelligence of the 1960s. Until then, the CIA had failed to penetrate the Chinese government or gain much meaningful intelligence of the Chinese domestic situation. These documents were the first real insight into the internal dynamics of the Chinese party and some of the biggest problems facing the party. The Great Leap Forward was this momentous political, social, and economic project that aimed to restructure all of Chinese society around hardline communist ideals of progress. But the forceful uprooting of China's agricultural economy resulted in the second largest famine in recorded history, with somewhere between 15 and 55 million Chinese citizens dying of starvation. If it weren't for the CIA's help in Tibet, the rest of the world may never have known just how bad things were in mainland China in the early 1960s. At the end of the day, these stories show that the shadow war between America and China didn't start yesterday. This shift has been going on for generations, moving from jungles and mountainous terrain to coral reefs and YouTube feeds. Friends change, alliances shift, enemies become frenemies, and the chessboard is never static. But the game has always been the same. Stay a step ahead, get the intelligence first, and shape the battlefield before the shooting even starts.
They can invade and take Taiwan. There's no doubt in my mind. If they really want to go scorched earth, they're not going to be stopped. But that entails killing millions and millions and millions of ethnically Chinese. That is also culturally in mainland China not acceptable. But then what do they take? You're the ruler over bones and ash? Is that strategically and culturally what the reunification of China and Taiwan is supposed to look like for Xi Jinping? No.
And listening to the full hour-long interviews that I did, those are on the YouTube members only section. There's exclusive content. If you want, you can go to cappyarmy.com for merch and show notes and sources for this episode.
I didn't know that that's actually how we found out about China's Great Leap Forward. That it was through a CIA op in Tibet. Did not know that. That was a good video, though. Solid information. Yeah. I like Happy Army. I think he does a good job. Anything else new going on? I guess not. Not really.
Do you think I'm strange? Unlike you.
I don't know what that is. Fuck. What the hell?
If God has passive potency, explain to me how he can be immutable, eternal, perfect.
You're on a 30-second bleed right now. You got 30 seconds max.
The divine essence is unchanging, unalterable, but I don't reduce the persons and their actions to the essence, and so it's not a problem for me. And thus, I answer with reciprocity.
You're just saying there is a circular object that's planar that can be orthogonal.
No.
I mean, explain it.
Divine revelation.
Explain it then.
Yeah, so
if God can be changed with passive potency,
I never
explain
said
how he's
that.
immutable. No, I believe that something can be acted upon, which you've said several times in your podcast.
I never said the divine essence.
Passive potency.
That there is passive potentia within God?
Yeah, God can do different actions. That was the whole art. That's the analogy that I just gave you from Aristotle. Of if I have the ability to do different powers, but I'm not actualizing all of them at once, right? I can ride a bike, speak Spanish, sing in an opera, or discourse on Discord, right? I have those four. Listen, I have the powers to do those, right?
No, actually, Palamas does talk about this, and he says that God only acts and is not acted upon. He's not passive. And so that would be a way that actually Palamas and the Thomists, I think, would agree. That's something, of course, the Thomists make a big point of as well.
Interesting.
No passive potency in God.
The heart of this issue is whether or not passive potencies can be allowed within God. And this would simply destroy all of classical theism. God would change. He wouldn't be immutable. He wouldn't be eternal. This is anathematized at Nicaea. If God had passive
I should watch
potency,
this whole
wouldn't be
debate.
Simply wouldn't be perfect.
I should watch this whole debate. So essentially, I guess he's claiming that Jay Dyer, in his defense of orthodoxy, at some point he stated that God has passive potency, meaning that God can be acted upon. And Timothy here is saying that that is not true. That God only acts, that he's not acted upon. If I got that correctly. I'm not a theologian, but if you think JDR showed that God has passive potency last night, you don't know what the terms mean. It's a fundamental error at the heart of the activist purist debate. Instead, he denied that he ever said that God has passive potency, an impossibility even Orthodox Dr. Bradshaw says Palamas denies, and equivocated on what it requires. He confused passive potency, creaturely active potency, and creaturely active potency. Wait. He said that twice. Creaturely active potency and passive potency. So I guess creaturely active potency is what, having the choice of several options, as Jay alluded to. He could sing in an opera, he could talk on Discord, but that's not the same thing as passive potency, where God himself can be acted upon and reacts to that. The debate was stupid. Christian Wagner's review was more helpful. Was it? What was stupid about it? Was it just going live with Astro reviewing the J? Yeah, maybe I'll check that out later. I don't know if that'll be good stream content, but was it just like in the weeds, debating semantics? Is that what was dumb about it? Yeah, I'll probably watch this off stream. I don't know if that'll be good stream content, because if the whole debate was like talking about these kind of what would you classify it, these like niche definitions, then I could see how it probably wouldn't have mass appeal. What the fuck? Another based Rhodesian exposed.
Gavin, I knew you were a clown, but I didn't know that you were this clown.
Where the devil lives in California. He a politician. He passing bills that bring chaos and division. Yeah, the devil lives in California. Should be in prison. He got horns, but he tries to keep them hidden. Cause the devil is a Democrat. And we don't play that. They say that. They love America. We know it ain't that. The devil is a Democrat. And we ain't with it. We ain't switching. Y'all are tripping. I guess God just built us different. They get celebrities to do they talking. They get mansions while they cram it all into a...
Oh, brother. It was in the weeds. Christian said that most people wouldn't understand the topics. He starts with the basics and builds from there. That's what I figured. Because both Jay and Timothy, I would classify them both as experts. They're both theologians. Both smart guys. And that's typically where you know, so in other words, they are probably very familiar with each other's arguments, and so things tend to get granular, very specific, when you have like two experts in their field debate. You know, it's like it would be no different, it would be very similar if you had like two nuclear physicists debating like two different theories or something that 99% of people, it would just go. And like I said, I'm not a I'm not a well-versed theologian by any means, so yeah, I'll check that out later. Man, it's just like, is there even anything new with Rerum? Literally nothing new in 2 hours. About hour and a half. Pentagon has quietly barred Ukrainian long-range strikes in Russia with U.S. missiles. Another case of Taco. Ukraine has tried to use ATACMS on a target inside Russia at least once, but was rebuffed by the Pentagon. Ban on Kiev has been in effect since late spring of 2025, ever since the White House began talking with Moscow. Gabon has become the latest nation to endorse President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize Award. What dog does Gabon have in that race, in that hunt? Bergkorf, very interesting wiki page. I'm kind of retarded. I need Wagner to break it down. Yeah, I mean, it's dense, man. It's not... When you talk about theology, you are talking about very abstract things. That's why I think theologians, like the best theologians, the most brilliant priests, I do think that you have to have an IQ in the stratosphere to really grasp these things. Because they're inherently not grounded. You're talking about the infinite. You're talking about things that exist kind of outside of our immediate reality. And so you have to conceptualize what that might look like. And you have to make the case for that. So just from that clip where they're talking about potency, active versus passive, what does that even entail for an omnipotent being? Like, just getting to the point where you're pondering whether or not God can even be acted upon as an omnipotent being, or whether that's an impossibility because that's sort of it's at odds with the very definition of God and what God is, and how you connect that to the scripture and make a case for that. You need such a strong fundamental basis, a basin of knowledge to pull from, just to even ponder what that really means. Can God be acted upon, and does that, and if he can be acted upon, does that actually contradict his existence? And it seems that Catholicism would say that, or maybe not even just Catholicism, but it seems that even Orthodox Christians would agree that that is not the case, that God cannot be acted upon. And I guess that kind of presupposes, if God is omnipotent, if God is all-knowing and all-powerful, how could he be acted upon? You know, it's like, it's not a perfect analogy, but it would be like if I'm playing a video game, I'm here sitting on my desk and I've got console commands, I can cheat, right? I'm playing a single player game. Can an NPC like in the game hurt me? Can that NPC act upon me? Or are they simply reacting to the stuff that my inputs and the code? And so they're constrained by their code, and they're constrained by the video game, and the video game, the code, and the hardware that it's on. But that NPC can in no way really affect me, cannot act upon me, an individual at my desk. It's like, it's a completely different realm. It's like a completely different reality. I think that's kind of like an apt analogy, I think. I would have come in and say we have Vivaldi, Bernini, Michelangelo, and spread across the known world. What you got? Half of Cyprus, half of Serbia, and Hagia Sophia is a mosque. You also need solid hermeneutics if you want to make sense of ancient texts. Yeah, that's a whole other element to it too, because you also can't just pull from text out of context. You also need to understand the psychology behind it as well, and of the time. So you also need a good handle on a good grasp of language and history. So it's not easy. It's not, definitely not for the masses. That's also, and again, I think that's a strong case to be made for organized religion. A lot of people say organized religion is, well, it's easy to corrupt and dupe the masses. And it's like, okay, yeah, and you see why. You see how easy it is for people to just believe stuff that's just patently wrong because they're ignorant. And that is a strong case to make against Protestantism. A lot of these like non-denominational Protestants, or Protestantism in general. And I saw Tucker Carlson said something similar, where he was like bragging about Protestants being smarter because they can think for themselves. I'm like, on the contrary. On the contrary, man, you would have to be an idiot not to lean in on literally 2,000 years of theology and history, for that matter, and study, just general study that the Catholic Church has done. And credit where credit's, I mean, even the Orthodox Church. You would just have to be like a total ignoramus to think that you know better, just because. It's easy to corrupt without a hierarchy. Yeah, it's true. And I do think this is one of the reasons. I mean, it is like a source of, it must be pride, I think, that leads a lot of people to that kind of conclusion, that they think they know better, they're smarter than they really are. It's like, I bow out of this. I say, I'm not a theologian. There are people that can that understand these concepts. They've spent way more time. They put way more energy into it. They've been, religious way longer than I have. And I defer to other people because they are the experts. In a similar way, I would defer to an expert on anything. Am I going to talk over like a nuclear physicist when he's talking about nuclear physics and say, I think I'll read the textbook myself? Like, am I gonna do that, And it's one thing to like research things on your own and to like to try to understand things, at least the basics, but it's another thing to be like dismissive towards people who clearly are more knowledgeable. You have to have the character and the humility to acknowledge that, I think. Heard a low church prod explain fire using the 1990s rapper spitting fire use of the word. The hell? Yeah. And that's why it's like, people, part of it is you have to recognize you're also a product of your time and your environment. So, and if particularly if you're Catholic, then you believe in the timeless authority and morality of God. It doesn't change. It doesn't change whether it's, 2025 or 2125. The rules are the rules. The morality is concrete. It's objective, not subjective. And I think it's almost like to acknowledge your own temperament, your own shortcomings, and your own limitations as a product of your time. We are influenced by the world. You can't decouple yourself. You can't jump out of the world and be a passive observer. We're immersed in it. And so looking back through history and looking at how, the earlier church fathers, how they dealt with that, and really seeking out their timeless wisdom, you don't really get that perspective with Protestants, with Protestantism. I mean, how many Protestant churches are totally cool with, gay marriage? Shit like that. So. But, and again, a lot of it is just like, it's a rebellion against God. It's a rebellion against authority, which is Jewish in nature. A lot of people don't want to be beholden to really any kind of higher power. They just want, it's sort of backwards. Instead of adhering to this morality, they want that higher power to sort of rationalize or be used to rationalize or justify their own actions, their own behavior, their own lifestyle. So they can feel good about the wrongs that they commit. Latin as a dead language is timeless. A priest or just a Catholic from Japan can talk to a fellow Catholic from Argentina in Latin. That is true. That is true. Latin. Yeah. I once had somebody try to... Dude, that reminds me. I once had somebody try to convince me that, you get a lot of whack job conspiracy theorists out there when you talk about some of this stuff. And I had someone legitimately try to convince me that hundreds of years of history was just made up. Bringing up shit like Tartaria, and he used this argument Italian is a fake language. What did he say exactly? It was Italian is a fake language. It was created 150 years ago. Therefore, all of these Italian priests. I forgot the exact argument he made. I wish I could do it justice, but he was trying to make the argument that because Italian was old, what were these priests preaching in? And I'm Latin. I'm Latin. Because Italian as a language, it started as a sub-dialect in a small Italian town that only a specific set of the aristocrats spoke. And as they sort of gained power, it became more ubiquitous. But, it's people legitimately forgot that Latin existed as a language to peddle these retarded conspiracy theories. Nick mentioned Tartaria to Candace, but he was trolling her. Yeah, that's really what he's referring to. These dumb conspiracy theories that are just almost so ridiculous that you just dismiss them at face value. Emerged from vulgar Latin. Yeah, it was originally a dialect. Before Italian became ubiquitous, before it became the state language. Well, I'd argue there are some fake historical terms. Dark Ages, for instance, it was not dark. The Enlightenment was a period of true darkness come upon us. Yeah, I mean, there are subversive elements to it. It's they refer to the Dark Ages because they want you to think that it's backwards and ahistorical, because it was a period of predominant Christian rule in Europe. And the Enlightenment, yeah, the Enlightenment was disastrous. Born of Protestantism. So, yeah, Bigfoot is real. Yeah, Bigfoot's real. Bigfoot's real. It's the Frankists. Bridget Macron is a guy. What else? Everything regarding NASA and space is fake. The Earth is flat. What else? Yeah, Bigfoot. Malaysia Flight 370 was anti-gravity technology. What are some other? So the world is a stage. Aliens. Aliens are real. The world is actually run by the Pope and the Jesuits. Jews are actually Khazarian mafia. Oh yeah, the black Hebrew Israelites. Bigfoot are just bears standing up on their tippy toes. It's just a bunch of guys in suits walking around in costumes that they got from Party City. The moon is a space station. Yeah, there's a Nazi moon base. I wish the world was run by the Pope. Yeah, me too. Me too. Maybe someday. Bruh. Did you guys hear about this? They designated Kisarazu as a official Nigerian town in Japan. Japan is cooked, man. What's going on there? They have a legit communist party that's like, it's legitimately a Japanese communist party that's advocating for more immigration, and they're letting in like 50,000 more Indian workers. Not good. No, another brilliant moment from Candace Owens. Let's see, what is this? And Nazi even calls Germans.
Edward Bernays, by the way, was the father of military-grade propaganda. He got involved, World War II, convincing Americans that it's like totally cool to want to genocide Germans. Totally cool. The Germans are so evil. We can do this with movies. We're going to create this image, and we're going to war.
Well, they did actually have genocidal intent. There were a lot of Jews that had genocidal intent with the Germans. There's a lizard people living. Yeah, the lizard. Yeah. What? Atlantis, Agartha. Nazi bases in Antarctica, Hollow Earth. Right. Just on that BlackRock Inc., one of the top investors in Cracker Barrel Old Country Store. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where, yeah, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, you know, all these top firms, they own everything. So, and they all have investment in each other, so it's not surprising. Like literally, if you like if you threw a rock, you'll probably hit a BlackRock asset in America. Just randomly trucked one out the window.
Hello, my friends. I have to come clean. I have something to hide. Many things, in fact, because we're doing a scavenger hunt. No. Actually, we are doing a scavenger hunt across New York City tomorrow, Sunday, August 24th, starting at 2 p.m. Here's how it'll work. You'll solve a series of clues all related to a very particular theme in New York City history, each of which will take you to the next location, all accessible by public transit. When you arrive at the location, look...
It's completely unacceptable that we would ever let this guy rule over an American city. Just on premise alone. A guy that literally just got here. Just like, are we serious? Woman is seething on Reddit because her boyfriend watches Nick Fuentes. What do I do? He loves his takes on politics and doesn't see an issue in supporting his videos. I said, because his misogyny and racism bleeds into everything he says, especially when it comes to politics. He has now started to use the phrase like, just like a woman when referring to something he disagrees with or is bad. What do? I feel like I'm losing a really good guy to misogynistic and racist propaganda. And please don't just yeah, this is true. If your woman like posts on Reddit, that's an L. Because like think about how retarded this is. Imagine asking random strangers for personal relationship advice. Does that sound like a good idea to anybody? You're gonna ask random strangers with their own agenda that you don't know what their intentions are on your personal circumstances of which they're completely unaware and they really don't care about. And you're gonna trust their opinions. It's just stupid. You're an idiot. You're a fucking idiot if that's what you do, man. I don't know. He makes slop from Midwits. I like Nolan movies. I thought Interstellar was good. There's some cringe moments, but I thought it was good. Inception was pretty good. I like that movie. Dark Knight. Dark Knight was pretty gas. She should keep that between herself and her AI BF. Yeah, exactly. Hey, should have asked Elon Musk his new Gooner AI what to do. Now you're forward thinking. Now we're thinking in the big 2025. Now we're thinking AI powered thinking. I don't know if you guys saw this.
So after 20 years of service in the military, yesterday I got pulled into an officer's office and counseled for posts that I have on my social media. During the counseling, they told me I'm under investigation as a threat to national security. When I asked for proof, like what the posts were yesterday, they refused to give it to me. They made me come back today to further go over stuff. They gave me the proof, and the proof they gave me are anti-Israel posts. Now, when I joined the military, I took an allegiance to support the United States of America. I did not ever take an allegiance to support Israel. But yet, I am deemed a threat to national security because I do not support Israel and their genocide against the Palestinian people. Yes, you heard that right. I am deemed a threat to national security because I don't support Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Since when does not supporting a foreign nation get a U.S. soldier investigated for being a threat to national security?
Yeah, he probably posted it on like Facebook or something, right? Kind of like innocuous. That's my guess. And like, why shouldn't he be able to? Right? It really begs the question. It really forces the double standard. So we can't criticize a foreign country and their actions here in America when we're supposed to have freedom of speech. So you can't really blame him for thinking that. But I think we're at the point where people are really putting the pieces together. So. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Japan is getting cooked. Also, they also pledged security guarantees for Ukraine in the event of a legitimate ceasefire. So, come on, Japan, get it together. I guess that's kind of it, man. It's been really slow. Do we have any more, like, slop we can react to? Anything interesting? We could do, like, another geopolitical video. Eternity? I don't know. Yeah, they'll send Mothra to Ukraine. Yeah, those pesky Russians weren't expecting to fight Godzilla. And a bunch of Gundams. Imagine. Secret Japanese military tech. Stupid. That was a dumb joke. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing really, we are just kind of doom scrolling here a little bit. I didn't really have anything planned today, other than talking about The Brutalist. That's kind of it. It's been really slow. You know it's a slow day when, like, my favorite Telegram channels have, like, less than 20 updates. Like, jeez. But, you know, that's probably a good thing it's slow. Probably a good thing. True. Dude, remember when Halo was good? Ah, I remember when Halo was good. When Halo had aura. Remember Halo ODST?
Rated M for mature.
Y'all got any more pixels? No? Boy meets boy, what does that mean? Yeah, I always wanted a sequel, man. It was 87 years ago. That was 87 years ago. Damn, I really am Monk. Fuck. Yet. I gotta stop aging, man. Gotta crack the code. Oh, yep. Yep. Now Halo, I don't even know what the fuck is going on with Halo. Just hooked. We are actually just GOI scrolling now. Fuck it, dude. Who cares? Fuck it. Fuck it, man. Whatever. I don't know.